Flying is still extremely safe, but Boeing's safety issues are real. Whistleblowers painted a disturbing picture of a company that cut corners, ignored problems, and threatened employees who spoke up. What did actually they say about Boeing, the plane that probably you would be flying with? And does it cost them their life? "62-year-old John Barnett died on Saturday from an apparent self-inflicted wound on March 2024. He was a former Boeing employee who blew the whistle on alleged safety problems at the aircraft manufacturing giant. Boeing denied Barnett's claims at the time, insisting that it adhered to the highest safety standards. Boeing, his then-employer of 22 years, announced it was opening a massive final assembly plant in North Charleston, South Carolina, for its new 787 Dreamliner in 2010. The job, overseeing a group of 10 to 12 quality assurance inspectors, quickly turned out to be the stuff of night terrors. Boeing had relocated south to avoid the machinists' union, but they had no real plan for circumventing Charleston's distinct dearth of machinists. Barnett was a good teacher, but Boeing executives did not shy away from voicing their opinion that quality assurance itself was fundamentally frivolous. At Boeing's Everett, Washington facility, each quality assurance inspector was assigned to examine the work of 15 mechanics. In Charleston, that number was 50, and the mechanics themselves more often than not were guys who had been flipping burgers a month ago, as Barnett put it in multiple interviews. So every day, the workers he supervised inspected planes that had been assembled by complete amateurs, while the bosses to whom he reported insisted the fry cooks were perfectly qualified to self-inspect their own workmanship. Every day was a battle to get Boeing management to do the right thing. In 2019, Barnett was alleging that Boeing had deliberately fitted planes with faulty parts and that passengers on its 787 Dreamliner could be left without oxygen in the event of a sudden decompression. Barnett also reported that he had discovered clusters of metal shavings due to the process of securing titanium E-nuts left near electrical systems for flight controls, which could have catastrophic results if the shavings were able to penetrate the wiring. He stated that he repeatedly urged his bosses to take action, but they instead transferred him to another part of the plant. In 2017, the FAA issued a directive mandating removal of shavings pre-delivery. Boeing claimed they were complying and working to improve the design to avoid the issue, but determined that the issue was not a flight safety issue. Joshua Dean, a former Spirit AeroSystems employee who alleged he was fired in retaliation for flagging lax standards at the company's Wichita, Kansas, manufacturing plant, died on Tuesday after a sudden illness, his aunts and sister said in posts on social media. Spirit AeroSystems has been under scrutiny since it emerged that it built the door panel that blew out of a 737 MAX 9 in mid-flight in January. The near disaster involving Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, which is the subject of several probes, was the latest in a series of incidents to raise concerns about safety standards at Boeing. Dean had filed a complaint against Spirit with the Federal Aviation Administration alleging serious quality failings at its production facility and testified in a shareholder lawsuit against the company. Dean told U.S. outlet NPR in February that he believed he had been fired to send a message to others thinking of speaking out. "If you are too loud, we will silence you," he was quoted as saying. Salam Salehpour, who has worked at Boeing for 17 years, said he had raised concerns about alleged manufacturing shortcuts repeatedly over 3 years starting in 2020, only to be told to shut up. He was ignored. He was told not to create delays, adding that he was later transferred to a different role. For him, this is not a safety culture where you get threatened for bringing issues. Mr. Salehpour's concerns focused on the Boeing 787, a wider aircraft that was not the one involved in the Alaska Airlines flight or the earlier deadly crashes, but has been plagued by manufacturing issues. He has said that the pieces making up the body of the plane were not being properly joined, which could raise the risk of failure over time. Boeing had responded to his concerns with pressure and retaliation, including making it more difficult for him to attend things like doctor appointments. Salehpour said a Boeing quality manager told him not to document concerns or notify experts of the gaps he said exist on the fuselage of hundreds of Boeing 787 Dreamliners. Salehpour said the boss insinuated that he should instead keep quiet. Ed Pierson, a former senior manager at Boeing's 737 factory in Renton, Washington, raised concerns to his supervisors about the dangerously unstable production environment and risks to the safety of airplanes. The factory was plagued with overworked employees, chronic part shortages, quality issues, and unrelenting schedule pressure to deliver MAX airplanes. Ed recommended Boeing leadership shut down production operations before both crashes, but sadly he was ignored. After the crashes, he implored the leaders of the NTSB, FAA, and DOT to conduct a thorough investigation of the factory and to involve international accident investigators, but was ignored again. He shared his story with the U.S. Congress. In turn, Congress directed the FAA to conduct a proper investigation. Instead, the FAA focused on helping Boeing recertify the airplane. In response, Ed conducted his own investigation and linked factory conditions to both crashes. He is determined to shine a light on the truth to help avoid future tragedies. He has always had the greatest respect for the airplane products that the Boeing company makes. His family was involved in it and his relatives. He had no reason ever to doubt it. And then he started working in the factory. He had been around airplanes his whole career. He flew airplanes in the Navy. You go into the production environment, and it's stunning how complex it is. At first, he didn't understand how all that came together, and it gave him a great respect for the people that were building the plane. It's incredibly impressive to see. And then everything started to change in 2017 and into 2018. They started having problems in their supply chain for the engines. And then the next thing he knows, they started having problems with all kinds of parts. They were having hundreds of people doing out-of-sequence work, where parts from previous stages still needed to be fixed. And they had tests that were being performed that were not being passed properly. One shift would try to get it done, and they couldn't get it done, so they'd leave notes for the next shift to come in. This is not how planes should be built. It was so bad in 2018. They didn't have engines on many of the planes, and so they put these big concrete blocks on the engine pylons so the plane wouldn't tip. Kind of an important part of the plane, right? A major warning bell that something's not right. But they kept increasing production rate, and so we kept getting further and further behind. So all of 2018 was just a chaotic disarray type of environment. In conclusion, the stories of John Barnett, James Dean, Salam Salehpour, and Ed Pierson highlight the alarming safety concerns and questionable practices within Boeing. These individuals, who were former employees of the company, bravely raised their voices and exposed the issues they witnessed. These stories collectively highlight the need for a thorough investigation into Boeing's manufacturing processes and a commitment to prioritizing safety. The experiences of these individuals underscore the importance of holding corporations accountable and ensuring the well-being of passengers and industry workers. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.